Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Emily Berneman, Chair of the Bike Walk Commission. I know we're going to try and start right at 6 today because I know I've heard from some of our members of the public. We have some public comment that would like to be made. So I would like to open up the floor to our guests. If you wouldn't mind raising your hand to be able to speak, we'll take it in order of um, who raises their hand first. Also, Darlene, I see Nick Pappas has joined as an attendee. Can we move him over to a panelist?
Yep, I'm moving him now, and I just unmuted Mr. Mushak.
Thank you so much. Okay, Mike, take it away.
Oh, hi, everybody. Thanks for this opportunity to speak. I live at 50 Elmwood Avenue, just for the record. I am going to speak on two items on the agenda tonight, the WestCog Metropolitan Transportation Plan and the Norwalk Route 1 Corridor Master Plan. And I just want to voice my deep, deep concern that I went about the Route 1 corridor plan first, and then I'll speak on the Metropolitan Transportation Plan second. So I went to the corridor meeting, and there was a WestCog representative there. I don't remember her name, but I'm going to be totally candid here. She said something that really disturbed me because I was talking about how we have no on-street bike lanes on Route 1 and how much of a game changer it would be all the way through all of Fairfield County to connect all the communities. And I know on-street bike lanes are not ideal for everyone. And I know that, protected bike lanes are sort of in style and that's what people want. But it's not going to happen in these built up areas where there's so much property that needs to be taken. It would be held up for years. It would be eminent domain. So really the low-hanging fruit here is to have on-street bike lanes on Route 1 and Route 7 going up to Wilton. You've got the Cannondale Bike World Headquarters and the chip maker, I forgot what it is, HMSL, something like that, up there. I can never remember the
ASML.
Yeah, thank you, ASML. And in the middle, so you have these big draws of cyclists and the state determining that we don't need bicycle infrastructure on any of these state roads. They're just seem to be anti-bike lane. And so someone from WestCog who was at that route corridor meeting said, well, when I said that Connecticut is 20 years behind, I know this because I travel through every state, probably in the union, and I look at bike lanes. And we're like 20 years behind other states just all around us and all across the country. And this person from WestCog said, well, we're an old state and we just don't have the room. And I thought, oh my God, I've been hearing that from engineers 20, 30 years ago. It's what all the engineers told New York City and Boston and Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., all of the cities that didn't have room, they were old and they became bike friendly. And why is Connecticut stuck in 1970s road design? And so I just want to voice my real deep concern that they're going to propose a plan for Route 1 that is not going to include on-street bike lanes. And that is unacceptable in 2024. And then I want to speak also, and thank you for your patience. I'm sorry I'm speaking so long, but on the WestCog Metropolitan Transportation Plan, that is just, I read it, and I also read the Connecticut Active Transportation Plan, which was, I think, from 2019. And they have a Western Connecticut proposed bicycle plan. And I could not believe when I saw it, their only bike route in Norwalk on state roads in that plan, and in the most recent plan, is Route 136. And then they're relying on the NRVT to be the main bike route up through northern Norwalk and Wilton. And all of that's good. We love the NRVT, but it's almost like they don't get on a bicycle and actually ride around as a typical cyclist would do, which is go to all the stores and go to all the businesses on the busy routes. And again, on-street bike lanes are not ideal, especially on a 4-lane road, but they could fit. And they would be an immediate relief for cyclists in that area where we want to encourage cyclists. Anyway, I can go on and on about this. It's just, I see a bureaucracy at work that is not working for the citizens of the state of Connecticut, and especially the people who ride bicycles. And it's not enough to just put sidewalks in and clap your hands and say we're done with complete streets, which is what they do. And when I'm reading all these plans, I see no emphasis on on-street bike lanes anywhere in Connecticut, or certainly in Norwalk and in Fairfield County. And I think WestCog has just done us a disservice. And I think the state DOT is doing us a disservice by not including cyclists on all of these roads using state-of-the-art road design. This is not rocket science. The standards are out there. They just need to make it happen. So thank you very much for your patience. I really needed to get that out. So thanks. And it was fun dancing with you on the Halloween fair, by the way.
Oh, thank you so much, Mike. And I just want to quickly add on. So the meeting you're talking about is that one from the public informational meeting that Connecticut Department of Transportation hosted on Tuesday, September 10th at the Wolf Pit Elementary School. And that woman, Marissa Pfaffinger, who's the principal engineer, gave the presentation with Andrew Correa and Edward Saborn. And they mentioned that one of the things that I had wrote down was that they had no bike or pedestrian crashes. And I think a big part of that is because there's not a lot of pedestrians or bicyclists on that route because there is no infrastructure for them. And on
Yes.
our agenda tonight, there are some the Route 1 project, a larger thing that we'll get into, but I appreciate your comments tonight, Mike. Thank you for speaking.
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity.
And the other person, we have two more people with raised hands for public comment. Ellie, you were next. If you wouldn't mind, Eileen, having her unmuted.
Yep, she is unmuted.
Awesome. Thank you, Emily. Yeah. Hi, biker friends. My name is Ellie Withers. I am new to this commission. This is my first meeting. But I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm a seminarian at St. Paul's on the Green, which is an Episcopal church here in Norwalk. I am also an avid biker. I bike to the church every Tuesday and Sunday from my apartment in Sono on the Norwalk River Valley Trail. And I am very grateful for it and for all of the initiatives of this commission. So thank you all for your work. I'm here today to make a request to the commission to install a bike rack at St. Paul's on the Green. Basically, we would like to provide the land if you all can provide a rack, and we would be happy to install it as early as next month. I saw your list of bike rack requests, and I thought that it might be helpful for me just to describe a couple of reasons why St. Paul's is excited about getting a bike rack, just to show the enthusiasm from the church. So I have three reasons. The first reason is that a bike rack would allow the church to live out its belief in creation care. We believe that God created this planet, the animals and plants, and thought that it was good, and it is our duty to be conscientious stewards of creation. So that's the first reason. The second reason is a bike rack would allow the church to live out its belief of radical welcome. At St. Paul's on the Green, we welcome all people, no exceptions. And by installing a bike rack, the church shows that we welcome all people, regardless of whether they drive, bike, or walk to the church. The third reason is that a bike rack would help connect St. Paul's to events happening on the Green. Our dream is for community members not part of the church to also use the bike rack when attending concerts and series on the Green, and possibly be inspired to join the church on a Sunday as well. So in summary, this is more than just a bike rack. It is a symbol of creation care, radical welcome, and community connection. So yeah, please install a bike rack, and thank you for having me tonight, and thank you for your work.
Thank you, Ellie. I know we have that bike rack wish list, which to my understanding is something that our commission has made, and we're working with TNP on bike racks. I think this question is more for Greg. Greg, do you have an answer on the next bike racks that are scheduled to be installed? Is this something that our commission can work on? Or Tanner, I know you can probably answer this as well, but I wanted to give Greg the opportunity first to give feedback on the proposed bike rack.
Yeah, so we did order bike racks and we do have them. We just have to install them. You know, they would all go within the city right away. I know Tanner had provided a list and we did order a bunch of the hoop style Norwalk standard bike Norwalk bike racks to install, and we have those locations and we will get around to doing that. Our field staff has been very busy because you know they would install them within the city right away. As you know, far the request for another one, you know, it all depends, Ellie, if it's something that, you know, it's up to the commission. If the commission would like to purchase a rack for you, that, you know, it's up to them, to the commission. You know, also, did you say you would install the rack, or how would it go about, the process go about to installing the rack?
Yeah, I mean, we do have a buildings and grounds committee. So if that was a hold up, we could probably get them to install the rack if you all could provide one.
And
And I
where
know
where
I
would
saw
you
on the, oh yeah,
where
go
would you
ahead.
want to put, where would you propose to install the rack?
We'd like to have it as close to the green as possible, as close to the gazebo. So our property starts just across from the road that's behind the gazebo. So we could put it right there on the edge so that it'd be convenient for people. And I did see um the green as a place of high priority on the wish list. So but I know that
So
there.
So you would
Mhm.
want to install it on the green itself?
Can I provide some
So
context here, Emily and or Greg?
sure, Tanner, that'd be great.
Thanks. So a couple of years ago, this topic came up, and there was kind of broad agreement that with what Ellie seems to be saying, which is that a bike rack on the green itself would be most useful. And I worked quite a bit with the first taxing district to try and bring them around to the idea that having a bike rack on the green would be useful and would be worth doing. And I even, in conversations with TMP, I didn't have this in writing, but in conversations with TMP, we were working toward an agreement where TMP would fund the rack and also install it, and the first taxing district would allow for it to be placed on their property because they own the green, the land that the green is on. That kind of fell apart. We never quite got the first taxing district on board, but I remember the TMP being on board with this arrangement. And so now I've spoken with Ellie offline a little bit and tried to help facilitate this. What I'm hoping is that TMP can make good on that plan that we were talking about a couple of years ago. Instead of the property being first taxing district property, that it would be the property of the Church of St. Paul's, because we now have a willing host essentially. If we could find a place that's in the public right of way, and that would be easier, I think that would be also a fine solution. I don't think anybody would take issue with that. What we're trying to do is get some sort of bike parking around the green.
All right, so we'll have to talk about that offline because this is all news to me. That was an agreement, you know, in place. I did not.
I mean, it was a conversation I had with Jim. Like I said, it wasn't ever ready.
I understand that, but I don't. Nobody told me about it, so
Sure.
I'm just finding this out on public comment right now. So this is all new. So we'll have to talk about it offline to determine that, because we just don't want to go into a rabbit hole where we're supplying racks for private entities, because then we need to create a process.
Sure. Yeah, and that's
we
a topic
we can't just provide one and then not for somebody else.
Totally. So I think that the root issue that we need to solve here is something that's also come up in the past, which I don't remember if it was you, but somebody within TMP acted interested in setting up this process or helping the Bike Walk Commission to set up this process. But I think it was decided that this sort of, if there's like an application form, what was discussed was some sort of form on the city website, probably on the TMP website, whereby a business owner or other landowner like a church could request a bike rack, and then that could be provided by TMP, given that there's a little bit of budget for it. I remember there being a lot of appetite to work on this sort of thing, and it got dropped, and I'm wondering if that appetite is still there on the TMP side.
Yeah, it's been a while, so we'll have to revisit it. It hasn't come up in years, so we'll have to revisit it.
Okay.
So I
Um,
don't want to waste any more time on public comment, so I think it'd be best to talk about it offline.
Okay, thank you, Greg, and thank you, Tanner, and thank you, Ellie. It sounds like the next steps here is we'll connect with TMP and get an update on that process. Greg, in the meantime, for Ellie, who's requested this bike rack, can she communicate with us and we'll communicate with you about
Yeah,
potentially?
absolutely.
And then if it is something where, if we have budget we can spend, is it something, and I'm not saying specific to this instance, but as a bike walk commission, are we allowed to use some of our budget to install bike racks potentially?
Well, there's purchase and then install, so there's gonna have to be someone to install them. They have to be placed in a concrete pad, or it could be placed in asphalt, but it definitely would need to be placed in concrete for the longevity of it, and also where the placement is. If it's gonna go in the city right away, we have to find the proper placement for it. So it can't just be put in the middle of a sidewalk. So it
Okay.
needs to be placed properly. So those are all discussions that we'll need to have, going forward.
Perfect. So it's something we can communicate with you, not in this meeting, but going forward.
But
Okay.
Greg,
Thank you
if
all
we
so
elected
much.
to use our budget to buy a bike rack that we then donate to a private group like the church,
Mhm.
and they're not putting it in the public right of way, like on a sidewalk, are there red flags there?
Well, it's not so much red flags there. It's just you now opened up any entity, private entity could come on the bike walk commission and say, you bought a bike rack for them. Can you buy a bike rack for us
Sure,
too?
yeah, and that's where we end up needing the process.
Exactly. So a defined process before you take the first step would be beneficial all around to the city, because it is, don't forget, it's city money as well. So
Yeah.
you open the can of worms when you do that.
Perfect.
Not saying it's not for a good cause. I'm just saying we just need to do it properly.
Definitely understood. Okay. Thank you, Greg, and thank you, Ellie. We'll be in touch. Our last public comment, Becca Stoll. I see you have your hand raised. If you don't mind unmuting her, Darlene.
I'm here. Hopefully these headphones aren't too awful because I'm backstage in a basement. Hi, I'm Becca. I live at 26 Emerson Street. I've been lurking the last couple of commission meetings. I just wanted to report briefly on a press conference that Emily and Melissa Murray and myself attended this morning outside the South Norwalk train station that was announcing the $14 million RAISE grant that was secured by our counterparts in the federal government, Senators Murphy and Blumenthal and Representative Himes. And it's really exciting. It's $14 million of investment into making MLK Boulevard into less of a superhighway and more of a complete street, which will include Norwalk's first protected bike lane. Emily said a few words. She was awesome. Yay, Emily. That's all I got for now.
Thank you, Becca. Yeah, and we're looking forward to talking more about that in our next call too. So thank you for bringing that up and the kind words. Okay, I think we're a little over for public comment, but if there's anyone else that would like to say anything, please raise your hand. If not, we will continue on our agenda because it is pretty full today. The next item I have on here is just a quick item that I'd like to bring up, and I know it's been brought up before by Judd or other commissioners in the past. I'd like to address pedestrian safety and access to a bus stop. Actually, Tanner, if you wouldn't mind, would you be able to pull it up on your Google Maps just so we can get a visual? I don't know if you're prepared to. I guess I could try and do it myself, but you're probably faster than I am. But it's this bus stop at 527 Main Avenue. It's across from Garavel. It's at the Sunoco. It's a DMV stop. So I imagine there are a lot of people trying to get to the DMV via bus who may not have cars. But essentially, and this is not anything new, it's been talked about before, there's no crosswalks, there's no access to this bus stop. And recently we were doing a litter pickup event and noticed that people were bringing shopping carts over to this bus stop as seating. So they are consistently, brought over and returned. You can even see in the Google image there seems to be a chair and a shopping cart. Essentially, I'm bringing this up because I would really like to hear, Greg, from you and TMP, but also from the transit district. I would like to connect with them on the opportunity to at least improve the pedestrian safety around this bus stop. And I know, again, this has been talked about before. I'm discussed, and there it kind of leads into our next agenda item, the Route 1 corridor master plan study. But I just want to make sure it's still on your radar, and potentially I heard rumor that there may be a bench going in here from the transit district. So I'd just like to follow up on that and the opportunities to improve this for pedestrians.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, it's lacking the minimal infrastructure for a bus stop. There's no sidewalk, so, and obviously no shelter, so there's definitely a need, for something here. I can't speak for the transit district as far as what they're looking to put in, so I don't know if they're putting a bench or shelter or anything around here. All I know is that we're working, trying to see if the state can incorporate some improvements here as part of the Route 7 at, Grist Mill and Route 7 improvements. So trying to see if we can improve this intersection as a whole, not only just putting, a shelter and a sidewalk here, but also improving that whole intersection, with the crosswalks on all four legs there. So I think we're getting that lumped in with that state project to try to improve this section.
Great. I'm really glad to hear that. And I know this is kind of a hard question, but do you have a timeline? Is there a timeline on when they would be able to start making improvements there for the state, not the
Yeah,
transit
unfortunately,
district?
I can't speak to that. I know they were, they unveiled concept design, last back in September. So, there's still a lot of design work that needs to be done. So unfortunately, I don't have a more definitive timeline from the state when they're going to actually start construction.
Okay. That's really, I didn't have an action item there. I just wanted to make sure it's on your radar still.
Yeah, no, it is. And listen, we drive by it all the time. We see it, and, it's lacking a lot of, it's lacking a lot of facilities here. So we're trying to, to improve it as, much as possible. But as far as the transit district may be doing something in the short term, but we're unaware of it at this time.
Emily, two quick things. One, I just dug up the presentation. This is on ConnDOT's website. This is the presentation they gave a couple weeks ago at the public meeting at Cranberry Elementary. This is their proposed improvements. I'm going to give the disclaimer that they would give if they were here, which is that this is still subject to change. But this is what they presented to the public. It involves, as you can see here, crosswalks across all four legs, like you mentioned, Greg, and then new sidewalk connections right here, which overlaps with the bus stop. They didn't mention the bus stop, probably because in their view, the Norwalk Transit District is responsible for that. But if your information is good, then maybe that's taken care of. The other thing is that obviously Greg can't speak to these things, but it's not unrealistic to invite the representatives from ConnDOT to come to our meeting and talk about this in our meeting. They may or may not accept, but we could certainly invite them, and that's probably something that could come from you. I can send you the contact info because I have it right here on this this website.
Yeah, I think that would be great. We can definitely do that. Tanner, would you be willing to take that on?
What, connect with them?
Yeah.
I think it would be more effective coming from you, but if you want me to, I can.
I'm happy to do it with you. You said you had the contact information, but I'll connect with you, and that's great next step, because I would love to have them talk about the corridor master plan study. And that kind of brings us to our next agenda item, unless you had anything else, Tanner.
No, that's it. Thanks.
Okay. And that was really just the walk audit debrief. I think, sorry, I thought I had my notes up here. I'm sorry, I have too many tabs open, but essentially, I just wanted to quickly cover that walk audit that we did last month along the Route 1 corridor. Greg you were a part of that as well, correct?
Yes, it was.
I don't know if you want to quickly say anything on that, or if there are next steps that we can take, or if there is an opportunity for public comment coming.
So
along on that.
as far as right now, I don't have any updates. Like we did the public meeting, we did the walkthrough, we've done business splits, where we met with all the businesses and gave out flyers to provide, you know, recommendations from their employees and customers that they hear. So Westcog is really taking on the bulk of it, but we are also very heavily involved. They're doing a lot of existing conditions reports right now. So that's what was really going on right now as far as all the data collection and looking at the existing conditions and volumes of traffic. So as far as right now, we're in a little bit of a, you know, holding pattern as far as the public is concerned. As we continue to develop, you know, we'll update the public based on what our findings are and how we move it forward. But we are, you know, we have bi-weekly meetings with Westcog and DOT, so we're very heavily involved with the process. So we're not left out of the process, and DOT and Westcog do whatever they feel is right. We're trying to make this encompass Norwalk, City of Norwalk complete streets guidance based on these improvements. So, but just remember, it's a corridor study, so it's looking at it holistically and how we look at short-term, medium-term, long-term improvements. So, you know, there's a lot that goes into this process, just looking at the existing conditions and also like the land use, for instance, as well. You know, especially along a commercialized corridor such as Route 1. So a lot goes into it. So as we continue, we'll obviously update. We want as much, you know, public input as possible. That's why we did a business blitz. We went, you know, I could say I went into at least a dozen businesses handing out flyers and talking to people on an afternoon, and we all took the whole corridor between us and the representatives from Westcog. So we want feedback and we want the public involved in this process. So you know, it's only going to get busier, the corridor, with the new stores opening soon. So, you know, we definitely want to improve it. So working with Westcog and DOT, we're working very closely with them on this. So we'll keep you all posted as we continue to move this forward.
Excellent. Thank you, Craig. And Christine, I see you have your hand raised.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks a lot, Greg, for doing all the work. I have a question regarding Mike's comment here, so I guess it would be appropriate here. The likelihood of receptivity regarding on-street bike lanes for this. How can we kind of, I guess I think, Greg, you're saying there's going to be future public meetings, but what cards can we play here as an advocacy group or as a, you know, city entity here to make sure that's on the front burner?
Yeah, so I mean, I was at that public meeting, and I think I was at the same table that Mike was at. I know that we had a few different tables, so I don't recall hearing the comment. So, but I'll believe him. You know, we're working very closely with Westcog, and we obviously, you know, you see it around what we've done recently. We're putting in as much bike facilities as we can wherever we can find it. And in an important corridor such as this, it's about moving the most amount of people as possible. On Route 1. It's not just moving vehicles that faster, it's moving the most amount of people. So we're looking at transit, we're looking at pedestrians, bicycles, we're looking at vehicles. So I think just from, you know, the commission's perspective, is just, you know, getting the word out to as many people as possible whenever there is a public meeting, garnering as much support as possible from people that may not even be included in, you know, be involved in meetings a lot of times, but, you know, they heavily travel on Route 1 or, you know, they travel it and, you know, they don't even realize that, you know, their voice could be heard and it could be improved. That's why we did the business blitz, to talk to, you know, not only the store managers, but also talk to some employees. We had a chance to talk to some employees. Hey, how do you get to work every day? You know, do you take the bus? Do you drive a car? Do you walk? So just listening to those and gathering, you know, getting contact information through them and just getting the word out to as many people as possible to hear how they commute to work or how they commute to the store along Route 1.
All right, I just have another quick thing. And, you know, as a cyclist, like thinking going down that route, like all the businesses there coming in and out. So obviously safety would be a concern. So either bike boxes, you know, should go in there. But I'm also wondering, based on the traffic that I've noticed at night, that is a shortcut for trucks to avoid detours on I-95 because of all the bridge work and things like that.
Yeah.
Is there anything that our city can do to prevent that as a truck route, like for a detour at night, because you have people on there at night too, commuters or early hours when they're still on there using that as a detour.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, it's difficult to keep trucks, especially off of Route 1. It's really only the only viable a viable option other than 95. You know, so we can't prevent them from using Route 1 and telling them to stay on 95. There's just no structure that we can provide. You know, especially like a no-through truck route isn't even determined by us. It would be determined by the state of Connecticut, up to the state traffic authority that would decide something like that. But we can't take a state route and say you can't detour off of 95 and go on Route 1.
But could the city petition, and this will be my last comment. Thank you, Greg.
Mhm.
Could the city petition something to like limit that? Like somehow limit, because you know, when it first was put in, we were a smaller city. Now we've grown quite a bit. We have more pedestrians, more cyclists,
Mhm.
more businesses, more commuters on bikes. I mean, is this something that could be envisioning the future here? That they would have to kind of abide by a limitation, that's something we could request, like with the mayor, with people, public here.
Well, again, something like that would ultimately be up to the state traffic authority. It wouldn't be up to us. You know, they would do a study, but it's hard to keep trucks because where are the trucks going? They're more than likely going to a commercial big box store on Route 1, more than likely. So they have to be able to access Route 1. You know, they can't go through the side streets, you know, back roads on local roads to make deliveries. They have to go on Route 1 to make those types of deliveries. So it'd be difficult to stop them and say, you can't go on Route 1 to make your delivery. So that's the kind of things that would come up if you were to, you know, say that to trucks. And I don't know how you would even control that. Because even like a no-through truck route, as long as they have a delivery within city limits, they can still access a no-through truck route. So it would just be not saying it can't be done. I'm just saying we wouldn't even know how it would even go through, because it's a state route 1.
Is that something, sorry, that we can find if other municipalities have done something like that in Connecticut?
Are you talking like overnight, or are you talking just entirely?
No, overnight, because when they close a lane on I-95, I'm
Yeah.
talking about the detour. I'm not talking about deliveries to the box stores on Connecticut Avenue. I'm talking about the detours.
Right, but I'm just saying, like overnight, they could be delivering at nighttime.
No, I understand. I guess I've seen it at night, the amount of traffic, and it's a lot for a small city to me, but we can
I get it.
maybe do a
It's
study, or I
difficult to
can do it. I
implement.
can look into it, see if that's possible with the
I mean,
state
yeah, no,
traffic.
if you want to look into other cities and see if they were able to, it's a state route.
Okay.
You know, actually it's US Route 1, so
Oh.
runs all the way, you know, to Florida. So,
Right.
you know, you can look into it for sure. Maybe it has been done.
Okay.
Okay, and I just found my notes. I apologize. I didn't have these prepared at the start, but the walk audit we did on the Route 1 corridor walk audit was on October 8th, which was a Tuesday. And we went along, like Greg said, it was with the state and FHI Studio as well, who's the designer, I believe, for the study observations. And then there is another public meeting opportunity for feedback scheduled to happen around January 2025, I believe they said. So I'm looking forward to that. And thank you, Christine, for your questions, and Greg for your involvement there. If there is any opportunity for the Bike Walk Commission, like Christine was recommending, to get involved or to support infrastructure for pedestrians and cyclists, is that something that would be helpful for you, TMP, Greg?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, we obviously want you all involved throughout the process. So, you know, whenever you see a public meeting, you know, then, you know, and also getting the word out to as many people as possible to attend that meeting.
Great. Okay, thank you. Anything else on that project before I move on to the active transportation micro grant? Tanner, any thoughts?
To answer the question that you just asked, Greg, I think getting involved for the commission to get involved in a project like this, because it's not really a city project. The city's involved in kind of facilitating part of it, but ultimately it's administered by Westcog and being done by the consultant. So I think the way that we can have an impact here is twofold. One, like Greg said, is by turning out a lot of people to whatever public input opportunities exist, whether that's a meeting or a comment period where people can write written comment. But if there is ever a period for written comment, and I think that kind of implicitly, if there's an email address published on the project website, then that's inviting comment. We could always, as a commission, write like a joint letter and vote on it and then send it in on behalf of the commission. I don't know if that would carry more weight, but it's probably worth trying. You know, especially if we have some particular opinion on some particular issue, like the example of bike lanes, right? Like if they get to a point with the project where they're far enough along, they've published a concept and it doesn't include some feature that we think is crucial, like on-street bike lanes, we could write a joint letter on behalf of the commission and send it to them. They're not obligated to do anything with it. We can still send it.
Okay. Christine and Tanner, would you both be interested in working on that with me?
Of course, yeah. I'm going to stay on top of this project.
Yeah, I definitely would be too, because we have to think long-term and visionary, and obviously they're not regarding cyclists and pedestrians, and it's not in their best interest, but it's in the municipality's best interest.
And especially like you said, with those new stores going in, Wegmans, Target, like there's a lot of, more draw to that area now. Perfect.
A good question for Greg is whether there exists a project website or not yet, or whether there ever will.
Yeah, there's a project website.
I think it's
Oh
on
yes,
the
okay, no, I
agenda.
just found it. I have seen this before. I'll share it really quick so people recognize it.
Yeah, it's on the agenda, and then TMP also has a website on their which has a link to this.
Yes, I think this is how I found out about the first public meeting too. You all can see this, right? This is on Westcog's website right here. I just Googled Norwalk Route 1 corridor study, and this is the first result. Greg, you were talking about the business outreach going to different businesses. That's probably what this is describing, right? August 7th Business and Transit Outreach Summary. Cool. So somebody else was asking about project timeline. Or I guess no, the question about timeline was about Route 7. But because we're always perpetually interested in timelines, we can find that here. The Route 1 corridor study is just a study. It doesn't involve any construction, but it will give recommendations for construction. And it looks like the final report and public presentation will be August 2025. But the preliminary concept plan, which is what I was describing a minute ago, the kind of thing where we can, where it has concrete, proposals that we could comment on and potentially push back on, will be June 2025. So that's still several months out. The public engagement meetings, it says May of 2024, September 2024, but as far as I know, there wasn't any public engagement meeting in September. Is this the one that's getting pushed to January, Greg?
Yeah, so right now we're not planning a public meeting over the next few months. So yeah, January sometime over the winter would be the next opportunity.
Gotcha. And is TMP the one running or planning that meeting, or is that Westcog?
So it would be us in conjunction with FHI, who's a design consultant for it, and Westcog.
Okay.
So between all those entities, but FHI will ultimately be running the meeting because they ran the previous public meeting at Jefferson School, because they are the design consultant, and we will be in attendance.
Gotcha. And then can you comment at all on the nature of these meetings that this timeline has suggested for April 25 and July 25?
I can't speak to those that far out now.
Okay. Emily, any other questions about this while I have it up?
I think that was it for me.
Okay.
I'm sorry, the next agenda item is actually the Wall Street Corridor Improvement Project. I got ahead of myself thinking it was the micro grant, but it's just a quick update from you, Greg, if you're open to it, on those, the groundbreaking, but also the opportunity for the public to give feedback. I just wanted to clarify that project site and the best way to give feedback.
Yeah, so we had the groundbreaking last week for the East Wall Street portion that runs between Main and Brook Street. So the contractor is going to mobilize any week now, any day really. So he's starting putting in actual, demoing the existing curbing and sidewalk and start putting in the new drainage. And they should be able to get a pretty good amount of work done before the winter comes in, hopefully. So they'll be, they have a go for that project, and obviously that's funded through the state of Connecticut's LOTSIP program. So we're excited to see that, and that's gonna continue on into next year. So it's gonna be about a year of construction for that portion of the East Wall Street portion, Landmark Square. And then going forward, right now we're working alongside with Fuss and O'Neill on the 30% design plans. Obviously, it's been a little bit of time since we kind of unveiled, had a public meeting on the Wall Street portion, but we've been really dedicated and busy trying to get as much, get the Landmark Square portion out to bid, get the contractor on board, get all the items and materials going. So that's where we've kind of dedicated a lot of our time and ability to get that done. So not so much that the Wall Street's been put on the back shelf, but we've just been trying to get the construction started. And now that that's approaching, now we're really delving into that 30% design plan for the rest of Wall Street. That includes Burnell Boulevard, River, Main, Commerce, and the East Wall Street portion heading up towards East Avenue as well. Obviously, they each contain a different funding source. So we'll be rolling those out, and we'll be having another public meeting. I know we had talked about doing a public meeting in the fall. But like I said, we really wanted to get this project under construction and going. So we're going to push that back a little bit. So we're working with Fuss and O'Neill, who's our design consultant, on the 30% plans based on the comments we received from the previous meeting that we had at the library a couple of years back. So now we're looking to move that forward, and then we'll have another public meeting once we have those plans before we go ahead to advance those to 60%. So we'll keep everybody posted on the status of those plans for the rest of the Wall Street corridor.
Perfect. Thank you, Greg. The one note I had for you too was just on the community outreach and engagement page within the City of Norwalk site for this project. There's an email us your questions and ideas to www.wallstreetimprovements.com. But that link does not seem to be working. If the public does want to give public comment, what's the best way to do that?
Let me check with our design consultant, because I'm pretty sure that email went to both the city and our design consultant as well. So let me double check to see if there's a better way for comments to be received, and I will send that to you all separately. I just want to confirm with the design team first. Before we do that. And this way we keep it moving forward, but we just want to make sure it's the right email. So let me get back to you all.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Greg. Okay, so then our next agenda item is that grant that you brought to our attention from the Connecticut Department of Transportation, another active transportation micro grant.
Yeah, so obviously, we applied for it back for the September solicitation. I know, Nick, you did the work on that one, and then went through the city. So they solicit that 4 times a year, and each entity can apply up to twice a year. So we entered in September. So if you'd like, we can apply again this year. It'd be about this for this upcoming one for December. So it would be the same process. It would still have to come from the city, and we'd still have to go through our grants coordinator in order to apply, and we still, would have to go through that same process. So, if you all want to take on that portion of, filling out the application and then submit it, and then the city from there can officially send it into WestCog, to officially submit by the December timeline. Still haven't heard anything on the September application that we submitted. So I guess they're still reviewing the applications now. So hopefully we get an answer back, but I definitely think it'd be a benefit to apply again, because, get up to another $5,000 for the participating items that are allowed within the grant.
Great, yeah. And would our status of whether or not we were awarded anything from the previous grant affect this application, or no?
No, because it's because you can apply up to twice a year. So I mean, you can get awarded twice out of the 2 out of the 4 solicitations. So it should not hold us back at all.
Okay, Nick, since you filled out the last application, how would you feel about taking that on again?
I wouldn't mind doing that. I would just want to get some clarity on what we'd be asking for this time. I don't know that it's allowable to just ask for the same items over again. I don't know if that's even what we'd want to do. Some of those things I think are like not pertinent to what we want this time around. Like I think one of them was like funding for a city event or like the Oyster Festival. So I think we'd need to clarify those things before submitting the application as to like what we'd actually want money for.
Okay. I'd be happy to work with you on that in a separate meeting if you're open to that.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, perfect. So then we'll aim to get that figured out. And then ultimately, like you said, Greg, it has to come from the city. So we'll work with you on that as well. But we will aim to have that grant application filled out by December 13th, which is the due
It
date.
needs to be submitted to Westcog by then, and then Westcog will formally submit to DOT the week after that deadline.
Okay, perfect. Do any other commissioners want to be involved in that or educational subcommittee? Julia, I see you're here too. Oh, Christine, perfect.
I mean, I can help you, Nick, if you just send it to me too, or I'd like to review it before.
And same here.
Yeah, when is it due?
Excellent.
Sorry, I missed the due date.
December 13th.
Yeah, so I'll have some time. Nick, next Monday for sure I have time. Holiday for me.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Christine. Thank you, Julia. And thank you, Nick and Greg. Excellent. Okay. Next item here is the Deep Recreational Trails grant that Tanner, Christine, and I have been working on. Tanner, if you wouldn't mind talking to this, or I'm happy to give an update as well, but I would love to hear from you.
Well, I think all the most recent developments have been your work, so you should probably talk about them. But I mean,
Okay.
I can give context if you want.
Yeah, you want to give a little context first?
Yeah, so for those following along at home, especially if this is your first meeting, we have been working for the last year and a half on a vision for a walking, biking path running all along the coast through this part of Connecticut. There's a coalition of advocates and city representatives, both elected officials and employees, that have assembled from Greenwich all the way up to Bridgeport. And the Greenwich and Stamford folks have succeeded in winning now 2 grants. The first one was for a study and design of a section of trail linking a park in Greenwich with a park in Stamford. And then in the most recent round of state of grants, there was money awarded to Stamford for a section near the border with Darien, I think on Weed Avenue, if I remember that right, right by the border with Darien. So both of these came from the Connecticut Recreational Trails Grant, which is administered by DEEP, as Emily alluded to. We've been getting involved more recently as it's become clear that the momentum is moving kind of up the coast toward us. And so we've been trying to put together an application for the same grant program that would fund a feasibility study of like where such a trail would go through Darien and Norwalk. It's still a very high level at this point, but Emily and I have been attending the meetings of this larger coalition. We've been chatting with TMP as well. And right now, what we need is a written concrete scope of work that we could get some estimates for, because we can't get all of the money for this project from the state grant. The grant requires 20% of the money to be funded from a local source, and typically that comes from the municipality or municipalities that would benefit. In our case, that's Norwalk, and if our project ends up including parts of Darien, that would also include Darien. But before we can go asking city governments for money, we need to know how much money we're asking for, which is why we need sorry about Kat, which is why we need a scope of work. So that brings us to Emily, because Emily's been in contact with an excellent advocate, Bruce Donald, who works with the East Coast Greenway, which is a coalition that's building this same vision, but up and down the entire East Coast from Maine to Florida. So Bruce has been super helpful. We also met Bruce in person. I guess we're going to report on that that event in a minute. But yeah, where are we with this scope of work and cost estimate, Emily?
Yes, so the Fairfield County Greenway is this larger group that again is trying to get all the way from Greenwich to Norwalk, which is going to be a beautiful, beautiful thing if it does happen. We have connected and made contact with, like Tanner was saying, Bruce Donald, who's been a great resource for us. He has connections with Stantec, Redness and Mead, Sasaki Associates, and other design consultants. So Greg, I also wanted to make sure it's okay with the city and TMP if the Bike Walk Commission meets with some of these consultants to be able to do that. But before I get into that, I wanted to mention also Josh LaCar, who connected us with some other really great people. Also, Tanner and I met with Darlene Mayer, and I'm trying to connect with Tracy Mara from Darien on building those connections. So we have been outside of these calls meeting with more representatives and people interested in this project. So it's been a really good opportunity. And Kimberly Bradley as well from, I think, Westcog, or we met at the Bike Walk Connecticut event that we were able to go to. But Greg, just in terms of next steps here, we are trying to meet with Bruce Donald and his friends at SLR and VHB. Is that the right action we should be taking?
Yeah, so I mean, we engage in the consultant and getting, first developing your scope and saying how much would it cost to do, these tasks based on the scope of work, and getting a range of these items. And once you get a better idea of that, then that will give you an idea of how much it would actually cost to put this out, and then how much that 20% is going to be, and this way we can request it through the committee and through the council to get it funded.
Great. Christine, anything you want to add to that, or Tanner, anything else? Oh, okay.
I think we're on the right path. I guess one other thing I'll add is that time is kind of the essence here. The city's budget process is well underway. It started out with that public hearing, which was pretty well attended. I want to thank everybody who showed up to that hearing and talked about transportation, and especially walking and biking and transit at that meeting. I think that was good momentum, but I think we need to follow that up with some more concrete asks specifically for this grant for the local match. And if we wait too long to do that, then the budget will already have been set in stone, and we will have to wait another year to get municipal money for this.
Okay, yeah, thank you for that note. Okay, next on our agenda here, we have the Westcog Metropolitan Transportation Plan, which was sent to me, I want to say by Kimberly. I received that from a Westcog representative. Tanner, I know I assigned that to you. I've assigned it to me here to talk about. I don't know if there's anything, Greg, that you want to add here, but I just wanted to make note of the bike plan map and that East Coast Greenway intersection in this document, which is Appendix C, just bringing that to our attention. But Tanner, if you wouldn't mind giving a little more context on this, I would appreciate that too.
Yeah, I've got my notes. I'm just pulling them up now. Emily asked me to read this this plan, and that's kind of my jam. I like reading plans like this. This is a long document, and there were parts that I ended up skimming just because it's so long. But I did read basically everything related to walking or biking or transit. There's a couple things. One thing that I was surprised by is that out of all the towns in Westcog, the town that has the highest fraction of workers that commute to work on public transit was Darien. I think because of all the people going to New York, but they were at like 30%, which is nuts. And Norwalk is 8%, which includes bus riders and train riders. So that was why I don't know if that's really very actionable, but I think that maybe it's actionable and that we can understand that there's a lot of headroom for more people to take transit to work. Let's see.
While you're pulling that up, I just want to confirm it was Kristen Floberg that I connected with at WestCog who gave me this document and shared that piece with me. It was not Kimberly.
Oh, okay. But I think most of what you were interested in was the regional bicycle plan. Let me actually share that so people see what it looks like. Here we are. Okay, can you all see this?
Yes.
So this PDF is 328 pages, and one of the sections is this appendix that includes the WestCog Regional Bicycle Plan. Dun, dun, dun. The bicycle plan itself is 70 pages long, including like half of it is appendices. Was it Mike who was alluding to this? That most of the actual like geographic plan of like where WestCog is proposing that we focus improvements for bicycle infrastructure is around these dedicated multi-use paths, like the NRVT. And the map of that is down here. Sorry, bear with me. Okay, here we go. Western Connecticut Regional Bicycle Plan. This is the actual map of the plan. They've got multi-use trail, complete, other trail complete, multi-use trail planned and proposed. And also there's on-road facilities as well. That's there's a little more of those down here along the coast where we are. For those of you who aren't aware of the Western New England Greenway, that is an on-road bicycle route that starts here in Norwalk on Strawberry Hill and goes all the way up through Weston, Reading, Bethel, etc. It goes to Canada. It goes all the way to the northern border. Again, that's an on-road route, but it is signed, and it's particularly well signed. It's signed as U.S. Bicycle Route 7, and I've ridden sections of it. I've ridden the section all the way up into Reading, and essentially, it's a low traffic bicycle route on the road. A lot of parts are scenic. For example, this part that goes past Aspetuck Reservoir is beautiful. A lot of people ride it. But this is bicycle infrastructure for people who are comfortable riding on the road. And it's mostly just signs and I think some sharrows, but like it's not even bike lanes, except for maybe, in a couple places like Strawberry Hill. But by and large, it's just an on-street signed route, kind of like the East Coast Greenway through here. And I think the East Coast Greenway is on here as well. That's this blue line here at the bottom. But most of the like upcoming plans that the document talks about are investing in multi-use trails, and it mostly talks about stuff up closer to Danbury. It talks about the NRVT, but it doesn't get discussed as much. And my impression was that's because the current work on the NRVT is kind of well taken care of, or relatively well taken care of by groups like the Friends of the NRVT, and to their credit, the city of Norwalk has taken a lot of initiative on getting that trail built. But I think that all the other blue lines here are, on-road, these like on-road facilities that are either complete, planned, or proposed within Norwalk. None of that is proposals or planning that WestCog is doing independent of the city of Norwalk. I think they're all things that the city of Norwalk is doing potentially with help or support from WestCog. But like the north-south bike route here to Rowayton is not even on there. I think it's because this document's it's not that old actually. It's from 2023. So I stand corrected. But some other initiatives, for example, you can see West Rocks Road right here, which has long been a part of the Norwalk bicycle plan. And then other streets that have bike lanes, like 136 right here shows up. Anyway, the biggest takeaway that I had from this was not actually the map. I found, like I said, the map was kind of lackluster. I think the things that we can use the most are these right here, recommended strategies for cities and towns in Western Connecticut. They have 9 different recommendations, I believe, in a bunch of different categories. Yeah, so there were a couple in particular that I thought, some of these I think we're doing pretty well. or at least where, you know, we have active initiatives on, for example, build a bicycle network. But the ones that stuck out that I wanted to bring up in this meeting were numbers 4 and 6. Number 4, allow the public to request and comment on bicycle facilities. It talks about how Wilton used SeeClickFix, which is very similar to our Click and Request app. But they suggest doing a bicycle project request form. And I would agree. I think that's more pointed and more discoverable for people who are looking specifically to give feedback on bicycle infrastructure. I think certainly residents should be able to do both. But this bicycle project request form, I think, would be cool to set up and wouldn't be a ton of work, and kind of fits right in with the other recommendation to create a bike rack request form, which I brought up earlier in this meeting. Like I said, that's something that used to come up pretty regularly at our meetings and hasn't recently. It's something, Greg, you said that you'd like to start that conversation or restart the conversation offline. Is that right?
Correct, yeah.
Then that's definitely something that we should be doing, is restarting that conversation. New Haven does it through their transportation, traffic, and parking webpage. And if this link is still good, it is not. That link is dead. I was going to show it. But it says, as funds become available, the City of New Haven is installing bike racks within the public right-of-way in various high traffic, high demand areas in the city. Racks are typically installed in the area between the curb and the main sidewalk area. A lot of the bike racks that we included on our bike rack wish list that we delivered to TMP a couple of years ago were of that nature. And all of the ones that we marked as high priority, I think, fell into that category. So while our recommendations, I think, I'd like to think are pretty useful, if we can gather some crowdsourced data from residents of the city reflecting where, you know, a larger group of people are interested in seeing bike racks, that would be awesome. I think that kind of maybe even falls into bucket 4 here. The bike rack request form that I'm envisioning would be for businesses that would result, it's less about gathering data and more about specific requests that have a likelihood to be honored because there's budget backing it. So there's really 2 parts of this. There's setting up the flow using a form, and then also setting up some budget that's ideally recurring so that TMP or the Bike Walk Commission, however it gets allocated, has consistent budget to put behind racks that are requested. So those are my takeaways. Any questions?
Christine?
Christine, yeah.
Yeah, so this bike, I just pulled it up. So are you suggesting, Tanner, thank you for showing that the bicycle project request form, that we do that, and we do that for bike racks, or just we do that in general regarding any other
I think
project?
bike racks is probably the one we should start with,
Uh-huh.
because it's a little more actionable, right?
Mhm.
It's easier to take a request for a bike rack and turn it into a bike rack than it is to take a request for a bike lane and turn it into a bike lane.
Yeah.
But I think that ultimately we should do both. It really, to a large degree, it depends on TMP and how much resources they have to put behind, and not the form itself, but you know, whatever actionable response we can make to form submissions. You know, if for example, if TMP said we're really interested in the answers to this bicycle project request form, then we should elevate that. But if they said, you know, we really can't do anything with that data until we get more employees or more budget or whatever, then I think that would be lower priority, because it's not us that's going to build the bike lanes, right? It's going to be TMP. The bike rack request form, though, I think because it's more actionable, that's where we should start.
So I'm looking at the form, and just, so it says transit improvements, would like,
Wait, what form are you looking at?
the CT.CMAQ application? Attachment C, the one that you had the hyperlink to, I guess, but it doesn't work.
This one?
It's
The
on
New
the
Haven's
regional bike
Transportation,
plan.
Traffic, and Parking?
Yeah, I'll send it to you. But what about like, for the, bus, protection? Bus shelters.
Bus shelters. That's out of scope for the bicycle plan. I didn't in the larger transportation plan, I didn't see anything about bus shelters. But since you asked, I do know that the state has set up a little bit of funding for bus stop improvements. And this is something that Paul Fox, I don't know if Paul's on here or not, Paul and I have worked to try and understand that funding source a little bit better. And our understanding is that it has to come through a transit district. And so we've gone to the Norwalk Transit District and tried to petition them to get access to that money so that they can put it into bus stops in Norwalk, but that hasn't gone anywhere yet.
Yeah, I'd like Emily, if we can put that maybe on the next agenda to have them come here, because I find it shocking that there's not bus shelters, and there's a beautiful one right across from their facility that they've put. So I would like to know I think we all do, the rhyme or reason about how to get this for the city. You've got people standing
yeah,
in the rain,
I can
they're
comment
going
on
up
that
to
a little bit more,
Bridgeport. You know, I just
Christine.
find it appalling.
Well, I think that's a great idea. We should definitely have Matt. I bet Matt will be willing to come onto one of our meetings and talk about this. But the one other detail that I know about this is that most of the bus shelters that are in the city are funded by the advertisements that are on them. And but don't quote me on this, but if I'm not mistaken, I think that they are actually owned by the ad agency. They're not actually owned by the city or by the transit district. And so that has made it tough to either get them repaired or to get more of them, because it requires working with this third party that I think is not as engaged as they used to be.
Well, the one across from their facility has their ads all over it. It's all about them.
Well, maybe that one's an exception. Maybe they paid for that one, but that doesn't mean that they still
I
have
don't
funding
know.
to do that.
I
But
don't
yeah,
know,
I think
but
we should get
one-
Matt to one of our
Yeah, and
meetings.
one
That's a
other
good idea.
thing that I'm thinking of that we can put on the agenda is, so we have bike-friendly communities and the application we've done. We also can start the bike-friendly businesses, and that will get some business buy-in to help facilitate some of these ideas we have and initiatives that we'd like to see go through here. So, Emily, sorry you're on mute.
Oh, no, Christine, I really liked what you just said. And would you be interested in helping lead that initiative, like connecting with businesses about the bike?
Well, yeah, I think we all
Opportunities.
can, but I'll bring it to the next meeting, information on that application.
Okay, perfect. Anything else on that, Westcog? I agree. I would like to connect with them and bring them into our next call. And Matt, if he's open to that for the bus shelters, a few of which we've talked about tonight. But I think, yeah, those are good next steps there. Any last thoughts, Tanner, before we move on to bike walk roll?
No, those are my main takeaways from reading that document.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. Okay, so Manny is not able to join tonight, so I will quickly just shout out to Joanna and Jill from the Norwalk Public Schools for a really great bike walk roll to school event and bus safety week that we threw. Oh my gosh, was it last week or 2 weeks ago at this point, maybe? But we did it at several schools. We went in early morning. We hosted tables and information and safety vests. Julia Green and Brianna, Julia's here tonight, and Brianna Iorfino from New Vance Health both were at present and contributed a lot of time, effort, and supplies to the success of these events. And we did it at Wolf Pit Elementary, Kendall Elementary, and Fox Run Elementary, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And we got some really good coverage. I really hope we do this again next year. We connected with a lot of great parents and students and staff members that were all commuting to school via walking, biking, or taking the bus. Julia, if you had anything else you wanted to add or talk about the event, I would love to hear feedback from you too.
Emily, I don't really have anything else to add. I think you covered it. It just was such a great event, and I can't wait to do it next year again. And hopefully we can expand and cover some more schools. But it was great.
Definitely.
Okay, is there photos to share? Are they on the website or?
Yes, we put together an album, and there are some, there was News 12 and the Norwalk Hour came, so we have some good video coverage as well. I will definitely be sharing that with our commission and TMP
Thank
to
you.
circulate.
Can I just take a minute here to share some sad news? I don't know who's heard it and who's not, but regarding the press, our local Nancy Chapman passed away last night or 2 nights ago. I don't know who's aware of that, who's not, but she was very supportive of us, like many other city organizations here, in case you didn't hear. Apparently she's been sick for quite a while.
Yeah, thank you. Christine, and I did see that in the news, and I'm very sorry to hear that. And Nancy, who started with her husband, and Nancy on Norwalk, news source online. I'm really sad to hear she passed away recently. Okay, our next agenda item, and a very quick one, the Bike Walk Connecticut annual dinner. I just wanted to mention and say thank you to Greg and the team at TMP for helping us get situated with the event, and it was a networking opportunity with the Norwalk with the Bike Walk Connecticut group, and we met several other coalitions and commissions and municipalities that are also advocating for biking and walking in their counties in Connecticut. And it was just a lovely opportunity. We heard and we were able to talk about some Norwalk successes. So thank you, Greg. Thank you, Jim, for allowing us to network there. It was myself, Tanner Thompson, and Nick Pappas that were able to attend. Nick and Tanner, if there's anything else you want to add to that.
I want to comment quick on the presentations that we heard there. We had two presentations that were both from women who had been directors of the bicycle program in Boston. These were really interesting. These two women basically served back to back. One of them kind of started the program, and then the other one took over for the first one when she left. And so we basically got a report on like how Boston built its bicycle infrastructure starting in, I think, 2008. I don't know. I don't have my notes with me. But like relatively recently, sometime as recently as 2008, Boston was like the least bicycle friendly city in the nation, and it was like widely regarded as such. It was like on the cover of Bicycling magazine. That's how bad it was, for being the worst bicycling city in the nation. And so Boston elected a mayor that wanted to change that, and then the mayor hired a bicycle program manager basically to say like, let's get something started. And they talked about all the different strategies they used. They used a ton of different strategies. It was kind of cool to see some parallels between the strategies that they employed at the very beginning and some of the strategies that Norwalk has employed. For example, one of the earliest things they did was start putting in painted bike lanes anywhere where they could fit them without controversy, which is a strategy that was kind of our main strategy until recently. It was encouraging to hear that that's also where they started. I think they said in 2008 they had one bike lane that was 100 feet long and only on one side of the road. And now Boston is one of the most bike-friendly cities of its size in the nation. I also learned a lot about bike share because the bike share has been a really big help for Boston in developing their bicycling culture. Sorry, I'm not prepared with my notes on this, but let me see if I can find my takeaway.
Was there any slides or anything, a presentation that you could share with those who couldn't go?
I can request them from Mary Cochran. I know, the two speakers
Yeah.
Tanner mentioned had slides that they went through. I'll
Okay.
try and get those to you, Christine.
Well, get it to everyone if you can, Emily.
Oh,
That'd be great.
yes, definitely.
Okay, I found a couple of notes I wrote down. One of them was we got to get TMP to work with us on more bike racks. So let's do that. The other one I wrote down was we should push for Norwalk to hire a dedicated bike program manager, just like these two women who spoke. Obviously, Boston is a bigger city than Norwalk, but it's not that much bigger of a city, only by a few times. So at some point, I think it will make sense for Norwalk to hire a bicycle program manager. Obviously, that requires budget. It requires political will. But it's the kind of thing that I think we should start talking about so that by the time the political will and the budget exists, it's already, a widespread idea. But like having somebody, it probably would be within TMP. Although in Boston, it was like its entirely owned department, which was interesting. But in Norwalk, it would probably be in TMP, and it would be somebody who was focused 100% on bicycling, whether split between infrastructure and encouragement and things like bike share. Don't worry, Greg. I'm not asking anybody in TMP who's currently there to do this. This would need to be a new person and a new position with new funding. But that would be transformative, I think, for Norwalk whenever we get to that point.
Good thing we have a bike walk commission. Yep.
Yes. In the meantime, the closest thing we have is the commission.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Tanner. Nick, any last words before we move on to our next item here?
No, and just accentuate what Tanner said. It was very inspiring to hear what Boston did to transform their city. And I think we all left with a lot of fresh ideas and takes on what we can do to try and make Norwalk more bike friendly.
Excellent. Okay. Next item here, educational subcommittee. I kind of touched on this with our back to school, or excuse me, bike walk roll event to school event that we threw recently. And the members of our educational subcommittee include Manny, who is not available tonight, but Christine, myself, Julia Green from the health department, and I recently asked Brianna Iorfino from New Vance Health to join our educational subcommittee. We're working on formalizing this and having more educational events, materials, and videos. Manny's working on our current video, which is, what is our Bike Walk Commission and how we've changed. So hopefully in next meeting, we'll have more updates on that. But before I move on, Julia, is there anything else, or Christine, that you want to add to our educational subcommittee?
Well, Julia, I was gonna ask Julia, like, how were the materials like distributed? How did that go? Do you feel like, how did it get into the kids' hands? And was there a lot?
Yeah, so we Joanna and Jill were able to print packets with the information that you sent over, and then also I had information regarding health benefits and physical activity for children, just different sheets. So we actually made the packets for the kids. And then we put like a packet and then any swag that we had on top, whether it was from the Bike Walk Commission, stuff from New Vance Health, and then also for Foxer and I provided water bottles from the health department. So each kid got everything. And then the children that we saw biking and walking in that actually fully participated, we made sure, especially the kids biking, that they got headlights and I'm blanking on the name. Emily, help me out.
Lights. Yeah, you got it.
Taillights, I'm sorry.
What do we call them? The flashers, the blinkers, or some
Yeah,
other?
that's what I was thinking of. But yes, so and then we provided education, especially for the kids walking and biking in. We got to chat with the parents and tell them, like, you put this on the kid on your child's bike so they're visible. Your child can be seen more easily. And then answered questions they had, got to talk to the parents that were concerned about the route to school. So some parents were saying, like, it's not safe for my kid to go from home because this road is crazy. And Emily did great speaking to those parents about specific issues that they were having. So all that's how the educational stuff got out. And then
Okay,
we
thank
provided
you.
information for further
Yeah,
questions.
I think one thing, and then I'm just putting this out to you, Emily, about is maybe like the next education meeting, talk about a survey that should go out to these parents that participate, to the schools, and find out what's their feedback, what do they think, how can we make it better?
Yes, Christine, that's a great idea. Would you be open to working with that on me? Working with me on that?
Well, I think, right, whenever the next meeting is with Jill and Joanna, I don't think we should just drop it and wait for next year, so I don't know if there's one scheduled. I wasn't able to get to these events because of my schedule, but if there's another meeting, we can bring it up then. Is there another meeting?
Yes, we're trying to meet, I think, monthly for our educational subcommittee. So yes, we're trying to still
Okay.
figure out the date with everyone's schedules, but absolutely, yeah, we'll
So
get
okay, thanks. And
the
when you
team
call it
together.
the education subcommittee, you're including the Norwalk Public Schools when you are referring to this subcommittee? Okay.
Yes, if Jill and Joanna are available, I would love to continue to involve them in our educational subcommittee. I feel like the schools are a critical part of that, and especially kind of moving into our next agenda item here with the bike league and classes in the spring. I know, Christine, this is also part of your agenda item here, but just quickly adding, the New Haven is having their league certified instructor course the weekend of April 4th in 2025. And I know we're interested as a commission in getting another certified league member. Christine, I know you are one. Do you want to speak on your item about spring classes?
Well, that's not something I have, to talk about right now. I think, we can discuss it maybe next meeting. We're running out of time here, so that's
Okay.
a lengthy kind of initiative.
I guess yeah, I can definitely bring it up in our next meeting, and I would love to have Brianna on the call because I am interested in potentially sponsoring her to get a league certification. But I know from our strategic plan from this year, it was you and I assigned the task of finding another league certified instructor to be a part of our commission here in Norwalk.
Well, if we can get a commitment and maybe we can put that in the budget to pay for that New Haven class, if somebody's gonna make a commitment, then I'll give them train them in the basic class or a few people,
Yeah, exactly. Okay,
And,
I'll make
maybe
a note.
just like Becca, maybe, or Mike, I mean, if they want to get formalized training and then they think about becoming an instructor, so you can look online on the League of American Bicyclists and LCI. So it's a great thing to do. So we'll keep talking about it, Ann.
Okay, thank you, Christine. The next agenda item here is actually also yours, the presentation to the Common Council.
Yeah, that's just something that we really should get on the calendar. That's long overdue. And the longer we wait, they can just chop us off the chopping block here whenever they want. So we need to be visible, transparent, and show what we've done. And Tanner has, I know, a running list of the past, as long as you've been ahead of our accomplishments, and it just keeps growing and growing. So they need to hear from us. That's part of our, or the ordinance. So.
Right.
If you want to try to get that on the calendar after 3 o'clock, I can go. I don't know about Nick or, Manny, or Tanner. But at least 3 of us should go.
Definitely. And I felt that before presenting to the Common Council, just because I'm stepping into this new role as chair, one thing I did do was reach out to Sally with Mayor Rilling's office to schedule a meeting with Mayor Rilling to sync up partly on our end of year strategic plan and just a summary of the work that we've done this year, but also to make sure that we're, aligned with Mayor Rilling's goals and just, mission for our bike walk commission. So if you're open to that, or if there is a commissioner that would like to be a part of that meeting and join me, please let me know and I will try and make that happen.
On
then-
the topic of the report to the Common Council, Emily, I brought this up last month. I think I brought it up every month. I started this process and I talked to some council members and I got specific advice from Josh Goldstein, who chairs Economic and Community Development. That's the committee where we kind of fall under. And so what Josh requested is that we create a written report that he can share with his committee members, and that once we do that he would invite us to a committee, Economic and Community Development Committee meeting to give this report. He thought that made more sense than giving the report to the full council. If you disagree, then maybe you can talk to the council president. I think it's still Darlene. Last time I checked, it was Darlene Young. But that's one path that we have, and I think that we should pursue that. So I think we talked about this last month. But Christine, I think if I recall, you signed up to put this this report together. Am I making that up?
Sorry, you kind of you went in and out. I signed up to do the report.
I think so. I don't have the notes from last month in front of me.
I think we were going to work together because you have all the information that we can put together a report. That's fine. But I do believe that the ordinance for this commission, we have to present to the mayor. So that we have to
the ordinance. Well, here, let me just pull it up. I'm pretty sure the ordinance only talks about the Common Council.
Oh, is it the Common Council?
I mean, it's also good practice to talk to the mayor, but Emily is working on that.
You are working on that, Em?
Yes. It says the commission shall provide annual reports to the Common Council to summarize the commission's work.
Okay, I'm happy. I have time. Yeah, but I just can't single-handedly put together a report. I have to have the information.
Yeah. Okay. Then I will send you the info, but will you stay on top of me and remind me to do it?
Yes, we'll work together.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, Christine, and thank you, Tanner. Okay. Last quick agenda items here. I think we're gonna end right on time. The upcoming events, so the Complete Streets Improvement Project in South Norwalk was today. Becca, thank you for mentioning that and the very kind words. We will talk about more in our next meeting that kick off on MLK Boulevard. The other things I'd like to mention, the Norwalk River Valley Trail has a board meeting on Wednesday, November 13th. It's in person only at this time in Wilton, but if there are any interested, Norwalk residents in joining that board meeting, they allow public input, so please definitely attend if you're interested in getting more involved. The other thing I'd like to mention is the New Haven Bike Walk Transit Coalition Networking Dinner is happening on the 19th, which I believe is a Tuesday of November this month, and they have the opportunity for speakers. So I just wanted to confirm with Greg, and it's free to attend this networking dinner. They are open to having other coalitions and input from groups. So I had signed up, and I just want to make sure it's okay, Greg, for our commission to attend and network and talk about Norwalk and New Haven and learn and.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. So again, any interested members or members of the public or people interested in New Haven and what they're doing, they have the new bike share program, and there's a lot going on there. So I'm very excited to attend and meet with and learn from other advocates in that area. Okay, that is everything from our agenda. Anything else, I guess, from our commission?
I just want to thank Becca for being here tonight and also talking about the event because I wasn't aware of it, and I look forward to hearing more about it and also having the public's input on that project, particularly the residents down there in MLK, to make sure that's going to happen.
Excellent. Thank you, Christine. Okay, so then our last few items here to approve the minutes from October. Were any other commissioners able to read and review our meeting minutes from last month?
I skimmed them, so I'm happy to make a motion to approve.
Okay,
And I so move.
can I second that?
I don't think you can, but Christine can, and she just did.
Okay, thank you, Christine. All in favor? Okay, and so approved. Thank you again, Darlene, for your very attentive notes. We're grateful for all your work. Okay. That is everything from our agenda, unless Greg, anything, any less? Nope. Okay,
No,
Great,
no,
can
thank
I-
you so much, Emily.
thank you all. Can I entertain a motion?
You can, and I will make it. I move to end the meeting.
Thank you, Tanner. All in favor?
15 seconds.
15 seconds. All in favor? Thank you all for a wonderful meeting. Very productive. We will see you next time.
Thank
a good night,
you. Have
everyone.
a great night.